right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. Send in your views at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. We'll sample some of them in just a bit. Kamau Mwangi is still here with us, psychologist and lecturer at Tangaza University. Trufena Wakaba, counseling psychologist, or Untrufena, as you know, is also here with us. And Richard Wafula, a counseling psychologist as well. We're talking about mental health in relation to religion, in relation to everything else, economic pressure, and the vulnerabilities. And Kama, before we went for the break, we're talking about the distinction between truth and lies. How can it be relative to depending on who you're asking?
Right.
Is there a way where the majority determine what the truth is, and therefore the perpetrators take advantage by making you feel special because you're the outlier? If people are going to school, they tell you not to go to school, then you feel like you're special because you're the one doing what people are not doing, and you're the only one who knows the truth. Whereas the majority who go to school think they are the ones who know the truth. Yeah. How do you distinguish between truth and lies for people who are in a belief system?
See, that's our brain is organized in a very interesting manner. That at the very bottom is this. So you can generally think of it as 3 layers, right? So, at the very bottom is the need for safety, psychological safety, regulation, and then the second level is the need for relationship, and number 3 is the need for relationships and connection, right? So those are the 3. Now, once I make you, so manipulation now starts at the very bottom. I make you feel safe. I make you feel safe, and then we have a relationship. Reason is at the very, very top. When the emotions are in charge, try to tell a person who is very angry, calm down. Like, reason is out now. Like, literally the brain, that part of the reasoning is switched off when the emotional part has been occupied intensively. And so this is precisely what happened, that once someone has created that sense of safety and relationship, they can take you to places. And now, can truth be relative? Yes, it can be relative insofar as it's my experience. I don't like the term "my truth." I find very problematic with that phrase "my truth," because there is my truth and there is your truth. Now, why talk? Yeah, like it's already done. It's your truth. It's already my truth. Why even have a conversation? We can only have a conversation if we all agree that we are searching for the truth. Yeah. And that you're willing to listen to my questions, and I'm also willing to listen to your responses. And so there is that part. You cannot say truth is relative because the statement truth is relative is that statement relative itself. So truth has that demand for objectivity. If I say truth depends with you, now is that statement truth depends with you true objectively? So there's really, you can't really at the end of the day say that truth is subjective or is relative. It's a very difficult place. You keep tying yourself in circles in that sense. Yeah. But how does it change then? Because some, like the client that Untrufena is talking about, started by going to school. Yes. And they believe that that was the right thing then. Correct. Then all of a sudden now they don't think it's the right thing. Yes. Yes. It's the same individual. Yes. Extreme different circumstances. Right. How does that truth change in their mind? You could think of this. So think of this boy. What is again? I'll go to what the psychological needs that I mentioned before we went for the break. Yeah. What gap? What need had this guy intensified in satisfying in this boy? Is this the need for masculinity, for purpose, for, that you are special, there is something about you that the world cannot do without you, Is there a need that he had intensified and now he was trying to meet? Yeah. So one of the dangers of trying to analyze situations like this is we don't have the people right here. So we are making generic assumptions of what the individuals were like, but we can assume that oftentimes that there is a fundamental need that has been intensified and that person is meeting in some form, and that's why the boy is tagging along, like what Trufena was mentioning. The boy believed that he is a messiah, right? I have come to save the world. I'm supposed to be a preacher. Right? I have been given a purpose. And we want a purpose. People get sick when they do not have a purpose. We know that in psychological literature. So if this person comes and tells you, you are special and you can do this, and we cannot do this without you, and you desire that, and maybe you don't have a father who affirms you as much, and then there is this man who is affirming you like that, you are open to that. And yet this purpose itself is also fluid, because I've had people say that they still don't know what their purpose is. Yes, yes, because identity formation is not a one-time thing. Yeah. It's not something that I achieve and I'm done. It's constantly figuring out. Yeah. The important thing is to have a value that I dedicate myself to, and then I try to figure out how I end up there. It's like navigating through a mountain. Yeah. I know the mountain that I want to head to, but I'm under the bushes. So I'm constantly trying to move. Yeah. The problem is standing still. Okay. That would be the problem here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wafula, what is your argument on this issue around truth and how to navigate it and how to find that it's like a North Pole of some sorts where we all agree this is it? Because the reason why I'm going with this is there's been a suggestion to have stricter regulations. Will that even help?
Yeah. What Kamau is saying, I mean, in discussing the truth, we have to be very objective, okay? Because then when we take two positions about something that really we can actually arrive at a very objective, perspective, then we miss the point.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, it's like, navigating and getting to somewhere. So then if you are to leave here to get to Mombasa, there are different routes. But the truth is that, you will either have to board a bus or you have to board a plane or a train. I mean, that's the truth of travel.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's objective. You will travel that. So sometimes then we miss the point, because then when we start believing that, my perspective is the true perspective, then it diverts us from finding, the real, meaning of the situation that we go through. Again, just, picking from the example that Trufena was giving us about this boy, I've gone to school, I've started schooling, then all of a sudden I am not, persuaded to continue with my education. Then what changes in terms of the truth is that then this boy at that particular point is driven towards achieving a certain need that might not be objective, that might not be truthful, because then what he's basically saying at that particular point is, I have changed my position because I want to meet a certain need. Okay? I want to meet a certain need. And many times, by the way, as human beings, we see things based on what we want to achieve. So our truth sometimes is about what we want to achieve. I mean, let me give an example in a relationship where time factor, coming home at whatever time. So me coming home at 9 is my truth and it's okay, but the other person feels, no, this is late. But you see, for me, I see it okay because then that is the need I want to achieve. There's something I want to achieve out of it. So I think truths and lies is based on what need do we want to achieve. And sometimes we become very selfish because then we are driven by what we feel would work for us, not what we feel is actually, a common ground for all of us to subscribe to.
Yeah, and Trufena, you're telling us that before we went for the break that there were interesting things that you also observed out of the case study we're talking about, and we agreed that we're not mentioning names in any way. What were some of the other things that you saw that somehow were perplexing to you?
The fact that he said he doesn't want to be associated with Dunia, and that is why they have banned the birth certificate, ID, they don't use the phone. And I wondered, is it because these things, they are for the world, as they claimed, and them they belong to heaven? Or is it because their pastor want to make them untraceable? So the truth is, it could be the issue of when they go there, they will never be traced. But the lie here that has been penetrated is hii ni mambo ya dunia. And I kept on wondering, is it because that they are not using the phones kwa sababu ni za dunia? Or is it still they are not using the phones because the pastor don't want them to be traced?
Yeah.
So there is a thin line between lies and the truth.
Yeah.
And the perpetrator knows the truth, but the victim doesn't. And that is what, after that, I came thinking, or I began thinking that if all of us, we know ourselves.
Yeah.
I know who I am. I know I'm important, so I don't need another person to validate me. And I also work at Nibs College, and I have started a program of making the students know who they are, because we are not sure after they leave classes who they will meet out there. And sometimes they will go and meet people who will be telling them that you look like an angel, you look so wow. If I don't tell them the truth as their psychologist when they are in classes, that you are important as you are. So when they will go there and meet another person to manipulate them with the same sentence, at least they will remember, but I was also told by my counselor that I'm important. So if basically the society would not kind of make people feel rejected, because these people, they have a story, Trevor, because it is like my family doesn't like me, the power of rejection, and they feel like they are unworthy. So when they join this cult, they are told that you are great, you are this, you are this. They are told lies, but in form of the truth. And some of them, as you said, they don't know their purpose of life. So another person come and chat their purpose of their life. They are very well manipulated. So if the truth can only be created if us who know the truth can go and tell other people the truth that we know. We tell them that whether another person, it's like when you have a daughter, and as the father, you should keep telling that daughter that you are beautiful, such that when she goes out there and she meets this man, she won't be gullible, that the man has told her that you are beautiful, a man who wants to use her. She will remember that my father told me that I'm also beautiful, so this is not strange. This is normal. Yeah. So that is how we are supposed to tell the society. And I think we have a lot of work as counselors to make people know that they are important as they are, and also to create awareness in the society of not rejecting them. Because I also realized that these people, they don't know where to go back. You know, you don't have documents, you have sold your property, so it's like a point of no return.
It's a one-way street.
So the manipulation was done there a long time ago. And the only thing now that is left for you is to die. But suppose this person was told the truth before joining the cult. Probably they were not depressed before joining the cult. Yeah. Is there the sober society something they were supposed to do, and we never did before they joined there?
It's interesting that you bring up being told the truth before you join a cult. So as a counseling psychologist yourself, what are the telltale signs? What do you look out for to know that, okay, something is not right here, even before? Because I'm assuming that this doesn't happen within a day. You will start to see some level of either something, a telltale sign that this person, there's something a bit off, before they even go to the extreme of now starting to ban their certificates and IDs and move to a different place. If a parent is watching today, what should they look out for? And there are two perspectives on this. If you're a parent, what do you look out for in your children? If you're a spouse, what do you look out for in your fellow person that you're with?
These people, what I came to realize is that they have a story, a very sad story, lying in whatever or the reason they joined there. The mother of this boy was a single parent, and you see now there is a rejection part, because of the rejection of the previous relationship. So probably she never processed the breakup issue. So they have the feeling of rejection. They also go through the feeling of isolation. They feel like they are the only people who are left in the world to suffer. So when they see a person saying that now I'm taking it to a land where there is no suffering, where there will be a lot of peace and everything, they are so gullible. Another thing, they also have the fear of, they go through fear. And when such clients come to me, I ask them, what is your feeling right now? They always say that I'm experiencing fear. I feel like I will go crazy anytime. So they because of the issues surrounding them and the depression taking toll on them, they have a lot of fear. And any person who is psychologically distressed, Trevor, is never mentally stable. These people, they are looking for solutions. It's like their head is so blank. You can put what you want to put in them because it has been made blank by the depression they are going through.
Yeah.
So any person who is going through depression, who is going through a lot of isolation and fear, is gullible to a cult,
yeah.
to joining a cult, because they are there, you know, depressed, and they are just there. They are like they are naked. They are looking for a person who will cover them through whichever way, either through lies or anything. So it depends on where they have landed. If they land to a counseling office, they are helped. If they land to a well-based founded church, Bible-based founded church, they are helped. If they land into a cult, they don't get help.
Yeah.
So if the parent can lead such signs to their children, and also the children to read from the parent, because these people, this guy took the parent first so that to brainwash the children. Yeah. So the parents are the most gullible people here, because nobody can take my child around 4, 5 years, 10 years without the permission of the parent. Yeah. So if you are a parent and you feel fearful, you feel isolated, you experience a lot of guilty because of what you have been doing in the past, it is high time you look for a person to talk to. Okay. They should just share what they are going through, so that wherever they will land, they will land in a better place.
Okay. Kama, in your experience, what have you seen as telltale signs of the people you're dealing with?
Right. So, number one is an obsession with a certain idea or person or group of people, like really obsessed that these are the people who will meet every need that I ever had, right? So this person is talking about this idea all the time. This person, usually manipulators are very, very charismatic, whether they be political or religious. They usually are very, very charismatic, very attractive people who make you feel very special. So there is that obsession with an idea or a person or a group. Then there is now a withdrawal from the usual interaction. So this person used to go to school. They have withdrawn from that. This person used to sit together with you and certain interaction with people, and now they are withdrawing from that, because one of the elements of brainwashing is a certain black and white interpretation of the world. Those people are evil. We are good. You have to be with us, otherwise you're going to get lost. So there's a certain separation from the world as such, you know. So there is that part. Then also now withdraw from certain activities, that we mentioned that. And then an obsession with behaving in a ritualistic manner. So they are obsessed with a certain pattern of acting in every single day, from the time they wake up, you know, what they eat, how they eat, you know, how they dress. So there is a certain obsession, right? And I'm talking about the word obsession here. Again, these are generic ideas. So sometimes it could be just a mental illness, and sometimes it could be this, you know, radicalization. And then the last one here was, I was writing a few here, is a certain way of dressing. Body markings that were not there, and they have a certain meanings for them. Now, I am not saying every tattoo or every body marking is in itself belonging to a cult. Let's again not go to an extremist kind of belief. But there is that tendency to have now body markings, that this finger is holy, or this finger is not holy, or this particular body part accesses, you know, God in, you know, at this hour. So there is that. And then there is an overly mystical interpretation of reality. You know, that red tie you are wearing, you know, it's because you know, the devil is calling for your blood. You know, that cut that passed there is, you know, so there is an overly mystical interpretation of mundane and ordinary things of the world, right? So there is, I would say, generally speaking, I would speak of that kind of the criteria one would use. But at the moment of suspicion, I would say, as a parent, seek out a counseling psychologist, seek someone and speak with. We look for truth by dialogue, like logos, like truth, by constantly conversing. And so ask people, ask questions, and then that will broaden your mind. Even in self-awareness, we don't tell you who you are. We ask you, who do you think you are? And maybe ask correct question to help you figure out who you are. It's not us to tell you who you are, basically. Yeah.
But does superstition play a role? Because as Africans, we're very superstitious. And like you mentioned, the cat passing in front of you. So you're going to work, and then you say there's a black cat that passed in front of me. That is the time I turned.
Yes, yes. See, that's why I was mentioning that a culture intensifies individual behavior. All right? So as I was mentioning to you, if there is a strong culture that says if you have not slept with 200 people, you are useless. Okay? So you find people now going to the extreme because they are, you know, as a man, I should have slept with, like, you know, all that. As a man or as a woman, you are useless if you do not have a lot of money. So I'm willing to do anything. So a belief system can push anyone to, I mean, a culture, an underlying culture can push individuals to a certain way of thinking that's extreme. So a religious culture like ours, where 82% are, you know, are Christians and a lot of us are religious. I don't know, the statistics are leaning towards the 90s, a very small percentage of atheists as such. So yes, the religious culture in Kenya, and generally speaking in Africa, can motivate people towards these extremist kind of belief systems, yeah, and behavior.
All right. Wafula, what have you seen in your experience as a telltale signs? A parent is probably watching and wondering, okay, so how do I tell that there's something wrong with my teenager, for example? Is it just a stage that they'll go through, or is this something that I need to take more cognizance of?
Yeah, and I think I work at a mining counseling center and training institute, and we have seen a number of, you know, not just children, but adults as well, who would come presenting different, you know, telltale signs of emotional distress. Just maybe before I mention a few of them, I mean, agreeing with what Trufena said, that, you know, as human beings, we become very gullible at our lowest emotional moment, because it's at that point that anyone throwing anything at us, we will take it. Because then we want to hang on to a thread of hope. We want to hang on a thread of, you know, a better tomorrow. So sometimes then in that position, we throw away logic and become very, 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 very gullible. Both to adults and children, I mean, loss of interest of doing things. I mean, you ideally, you know, would, you know, enjoy doing some things. Then all of a sudden, you lose your interest because then you want to now focus your time on, you know, some teachings, if I have to call it that way. And then this then withdraws you from, you know, the society completely, as Kamau was saying, withdrawing from, you know, the rest of the people. But sometimes then you'll observe someone who is emotional low at, you know, and especially prolonged periods of time, where, you know, the emotional patterns have changed. This is a person who you ideally would meet. They are very happy people, they're bubbly people, they're outgoing people. Then all of a sudden, for a period of time, they have changed the way they relate with people. Their emotions become very clouded, and then you would, you know, perhaps tell that, could it be that this person is going through something or has joined something that, and there's something we call moral anxiety, so where you're battling with the right and the wrong. And so in that moral anxiety state, then your emotions, your psychological, you know, makeup is actually messed up.
Yeah.
Completely. Sometimes then, you know, if you have someone who in a period of time, they have even lacked sleep because of trying to really battle with, you know, even what they're being told to do, battling with the truth and the lies, as we discussed earlier on. So then the preoccupation of the mind that even now brings birth to mental exhaustions, the feeling of fatigue consistently without even something that would point towards that fatigue. But then you meet someone who constantly will tell you, I'm feeling tired, I'm not okay. This could be a person who is really going through a particular moment. Others would be very forgetful because of then what they're also trying to deal with in their lives, be it they're in cult or they're planning or they have already been influenced to it, and because of also carrying a lot of things that, you know, they're going through. So then this person will become very forgetful.
Yeah.
Others, children and adults as well, they become very irritable, they become very angry to themselves, angry to God, angry to everyone around them, because then things are not working for them, and, you know, they choose to then take that emotional journey of anger and irritability, and all sorts.
To extremes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Extreme.
And Trufena, let me bring you in this, and I'd like to hear all your views on this. Will stricter regulations work? Because we see a situation where even after the arrests, I mean, we saw protests. People protesting that is our person, he has not done anything wrong, he's been supporting us throughout. So will stricter regulations even work? Because it doesn't matter what kind of rules you put. If they decide that they're following one direction, they will follow that direction.
I'm wondering what the government will put as a regulation, because if it is the matter of going to theology, most of these guys, they have been in theology schools. And then what about the gullible followers? Unless now the government put a lot of support in mental awareness programs, and also the people to be created awareness to join well-founded Bible churches, and also the people to be told the truth. Another way that we will save now the society is for them that now have been saved. How will they save? How will they face the world? Because if you have just been saved from there, you are there, you were dying, and all of a sudden you are saved, and also other cults that we could be having in the country. What is the role of the society? Because if that could be my family member, and then I keep on telling them that wewe ulikuwa umejoin kanisa ya shetani, I think you are not normal, and then the people isolate from them. Kind of, when another preacher will come, a cultic preacher, this guy will still join them, because that is the world they know. So the society, I think they need to accept these people back just the way they are. And most importantly, so that now we create a whole new environment and a whole world, I think they should not be condemned or judged. You know, having been saved from such, and having known that you had joined that, it's a full judgment to the victim. They already feel judged. So when you keep on telling them that you know where you were, I don't know what, then you are just adding salt to the injury. They are going through the phases of guilt, and they are going through the phases of isolation. So as much as the government will be strict with the churches, we also need to know how the society can play a part, because the society and the family, relative, friends, they are playing a big part. Because if this is one of your family members, or a person who belongs to your estate or your village, and you keep on condemning that person, chances are that person will still disappear. We all want to be in an environment where we are appreciated and where we can feel that we are at home. And that is why these victims, anytime, the first thing they did, it is to disappear. It is to withdraw from their loved ones. Because once they started showing those signs of, the way Wafula has said, of withdrawing, you know, lack of sleep, and part of them, they even had schizophrenia. They were branded as mad. They were branded as having evil spirit, and they didn't want to hear that. So they can only go where they belong. So now they have, because they have come back to the society, what are we supposed to do with them? That is how we will save now our next generation, because they are just there to see what we are going to do as a society as we try to take them back.
Yeah. Kama, do you think regulation will work? Stricter regulation?
Yes and no.
What form should that take?
Yeah, I see. The problem is, in most democracies, the religious freedom is one of those fundamental freedoms. So there's already a huge block right there. The limits of government interference also in freedom of worship. So there's already quite a block in there. Now, there is this management expert, Peter Drucker, who says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. That means you can have all these nice policies and laws and all this, but if the underlying culture is not congruent with those kind of policies and rules, even in any kind of organization, it doesn't work. So I would say, yes, there needs some sort of reinforcement. But just as Trufena is mentioning, these reinforcement and regulations, they have to work within a wider culture where we are strengthening families. You know, why? Because, as we said, a number of people who go to these kind of cults are coming from a place where maybe they're not able to meet their physical needs. So social justice is actually a way of fighting cults. So these kind of people are going to this element because their families are broken. There is no love. There is no sense of belonging. And this person is promising all that. So there is a bigger culture that we need to fight. There's that need for education, that need for strengthening communities, that need for strengthening families. But at the fundamental level, I do not think that reinforcement or simply the supervision or greater supervision by the government in and of itself will work, firstly because of the freedoms that people have to worship in the manner they will, that people who are above 18 can do whatever they can believe whatever they want insofar as it's not harming someone else. Because really, if you look at it, what is the error of Ezekiel? You know, he told people something, they believed it. Legally speaking, I actually don't see, maybe I'm not a lawyer, but I'm trying to look at it legally speaking, not morally speaking. What is the mistake of Ezekiel? He spoke with adults. If I tell you, give me your phone, and I tell you, I manipulate enough that you give me your phone, really, I have not done anything illegal. I've told you something. You believed, you gave me your phone, I went away. So, and that's the problem that we are facing here. Okay, so there is a need, as far as I'm concerned, to talk about in the culture where, just a quick repetition, where we strengthen our families, where we strengthen our school system, where we allow people to converse and ask questions instead of just being told, this is it, you don't ask. All right, so those I think would be a better way of looking at the problem.
And not regulating the institution of church, per se. Like
how do you regulate?
People register all the churches, making sure they go to theology classes, making sure that there's a certain doctrine that they preach.
Look, even within the major Christian denominations, there are fundamental disagreements among theologians. Right, so just taking someone to a theological school, which theological school? Right? So even among the stable denominations themselves, there are differences. That what you believe is wrong, one denomination will tell the other. And possibly theologically, they could be right from the theological criteria. What criteria is the government going to use? That you're going to go to which theological school? What if a pastor like this starts a theological school of 4 years? Right. Okay, now he has met the criteria. So there is that fundamental problem that I'm seeing there.
Yeah. Wafula, regulation. Will it work, and which form should it take?
I think, Trevor, I mean, again, I joined my colleagues in saying yes and no. You know, because yes, we need order. We need order. We don't need anyone to just come and, you know, allege to be a spiritual leader, and he or she is allowed to do what he does. But again, taking a psychological position is that, I mean, how then do you regulate a human mind? Because like they're saying, is that it's more about what the individual would choose to take from that person. I mean, and take this example, I might have gone to, you know, the theological class for whatever years, and I've graduated with very distinct colors, and I come and just utter a statement that then makes the congregants to be able to pick and use it the way they choose to use it. Then where am I left to? So then that's where the thin line comes, because then, so what does the government need to do? Does the government even need to script what these people will say? It becomes a bit difficult. I want to agree with my colleagues that in as much as the regulations are important, but also let's strengthen other systems within, you know, I mean, let's look at it broadly, because we have discussed here and we are almost agreeing that, you know, it's actually where the person is. It's the experience that the person is going through that makes them, you know, either accept whatever they're being told or not. I mean, we have seen people being told to this week, you will have 100,000 in your M-Pesa, do this and this. You know, it's a choice to actually either take that message or not take that message. How come there are people who do not believe or take what that person is saying and others are taking? It's about what then we are going through in life. So in as much as, yes, we are saying regulation will be important, but then we need to look at it from a broader perspective. I agree with Trufena saying that, you know, as psychologists, as counselors, then we need to play a role to just keep informing and making people in our country in context more aware, because then it is sometimes the lack of awareness that then subjects people to what is right and what is wrong.
Okay, let me take some quick feedback, then when we come back we talk about how is it possible to reverse it. And in a family setup where maybe one spouse has decided to take a certain tangent and the other one is not so much on their end, what do you do? How do you approach it as a psychologist from that point and a counselor, so that the union doesn't really break, considering that there's belief system is now fundamentally different? Let's see what you're saying online here. Godi Baraza says, crafty people have devised a way through which they have managed to mentally brainwash people who want a quick escape from their life problems. Pastors and leaders from unregulated churches have found this to be the most convenient cash cow. Okay? General Lazaro says, case of Shakahola massacre is purely radicalization into cultism. This is pure negligence from the government agencies. Psychiatrists should be used to test the state of mind of the victims. Otherwise, it's time to regulate churches. Okay? Mkufunzi says, mental illness has been a time bomb. The rogue religious misleaders always take advantage of those people with mental illness. It's time we introduce mental health education in our school curriculums. Okay. Godi Baraz again says the CS for Health, Dr. Susan Nakumicha, should oversee a policy formulation process that will establish regular mental health evaluation booths across all sectors of our society. This will greatly help in averting bizarre occurrences. Okay. Wanaina says cultist perfidy in Malindi is an abhorrent affront to the sanctity of religious convictions. We must collectively endeavor to expatriate such nefarious influences whilst fortifying our communities against insidious machinations. Okay. Kizungu kubwa kubwa. Amaganga Mustaf says it is mental health or evil spirit manipulations that controls the followers of a cult to do abnormal things, burning certificates, eating ropes, and starving to death. Okay. Sagioko says depression is real. Poverty and despondency doesn't help matters. The broken economy and explosion of infotainment has made everyone gullible. Cults offer an escape. Cultists are cashing in on all these. Let us bring mental health talk on the table. Okay? Big Kev says the idea of certainty is the problem. Why can't people just accept that we don't know anything about the afterlife? We'd rather take lies than have no answers. Okay. Sir Nixon says some cultures are also affecting mental health, and so as the conversation about coming up with laws and regulations goes around, the Ministry of Culture should also scrutinize that which is affecting the society culturally. Okay? So in Trufena, we're talking about when in a family setup, when there's a fundamental difference in the belief system, how do you approach it as a counseling psychologist? Because this has potential of breaking that unit in itself.
You see, everything starts with the family.
Yeah.
That is one thing. Eh? It starts with the basic of the family, the parent, and the children. So when a family is having issues, the issues now move from the house and then they go out there. And as a family therapist, I always tell people that it is good to have the true foundations of the family. And that is what I tell the parents of the students, that when you establish a good foundation, then it goes right there. There are children who have experienced childhood trauma right from the start. And because of that, they grew so much rejected. They grew so much of not having that love. When they go to adulthood, they are still empty. There is that emptiness within themselves, and they want that emptiness to be filled. So I always tell families it is very important to make sure that you cultivate love right from there. Then the other thing is that families, they also have the issue of getting separated right from there because of a person's issue. For example, if I'm a lady and I have gotten married, I have gotten kids, and all of a sudden my marriage has ended. The family has that mentality of, I was so weak to maintain my marriage, maybe I'm not a caring wife, and I'm not even supposed to be a mother. So I feel rejected, and the next thing I'll do, I'll try to look for a place whereby I will feel accepted. So if cult comes in handy, I will take it as it is. It is starting with the family. And if you listen to these victims, even after that, because I would like to be the part of meeting them, those victims and also the affected people, They will give you a story, Trevor. They will tell you where they are coming from. Some of them, they are going even through lad issues. Probably their lad was taken, and they are going through a lot of, crazy things. And they were looking for a solution. So if we can cultivate it from the family, the better. Then the same family, it should also look for the true faith, because as much as everything is going around, there is still the true faith. So as parents, I would want to urge to you that have a tendency of reading the Bible yourself, so that when this pastor will come with some quotes, some well-searched quotes, picking and not explaining about them, you won't believe them per se, because before he came to that quote, there was something written above and something written below. Because when I was telling this boy, and why don't you want to go to school and then you work like the others? Then akaniambia, Biblia inasema ndege wa angani hawalimi. That is a quote.
Yeah.
It is still in the Bible. But if your child knows the Bible, he will know where that quote was coming from. It was coming from a certain perspective. And also, that person will also know below that quote what it really meant. So if the family develops a culture of reading the Bible themselves, it will save them a lot of issues, because the Bible is the truth. But you see, the cult people, they are using it on a certain lines only, not really the true Bible itself.
Okay. Kama, how would you approach a breakdown in belief system of a family unit?
Right.
And we've seen this happen where people say that my spouse went there, I tried to talk to her and she didn't listen, and she went with one of my children. How would you approach that so that this unit stays intact when there's a fundamental difference in their belief system all of a sudden?
Right, right. Well, first of all I don't believe you are obligated to go to hell with your partner if they choose to go to hell. I don't think you're obligated. So if your husband or wife decide that they're going to go to a belief system that fundamentally destroys the union, I don't think you're obligated to stay. Right? So, and it's not just a matter of religious belief or anything like that. It could be also about the behavior of the person in relation to you in terms of violence. So I do not think that because one is religious, take for example, and you're a Christian and you believe God hates divorce. True, God hates divorce. But I do not think that therefore as a consequence you are obligated to stay in a very, absolutely hell relationship in order to please God. I don't think that God is such a merciless and, someone who kind of enjoys our suffering in that manner. There is suffering that comes with discipleship, carrying your cross. Surely, no problem. But I do not think that that's the case. So in relation to this person, I will possibly try to have a conversation with them, and we try to map out how this is harming this person and possibly the children. And we see the efforts that could be put in trying to have a dialogue with this person. And when from the criteria of this person, because I do not have a criteria as a therapist, it's the clients to decide, okay, this is the path that I want to take. Then once we journey with that person, then we can say, okay, from where you see yourself at and the efforts you have put, is it worth it? Okay? I do not think, even if I love you very much, like even if you love your brother very much or your sibling or whatever it is, and this person has fallen into the ocean or into the sea, and you do not know how to swim, don't jump in. Let the person go, unfortunately. So that is my perspective on that.
Yeah. And is it possible to reverse? I think the bigger question then is it possible to reverse this radicalized mind?
Right, it is. Indeed it is. Yeah. And I'll tell you about those 3 R's that are used especially by psychiatrists or even psychologists in helping people to especially child psychologists. Yeah. They use this a lot. So there is the first R, help the person to feel regulated, physically safe. That's the first stage. They feel physically safe, their physical needs are met, okay? They feel a sense of security. Number 2, build a relationship that you are worthy, a relationship that I see you, where I validate your feelings and your emotions, and I understand why you could have believed the way you believe, instead of saying, how stupid are you to have believed whatever you have believed. Like, I see how you could have believed that, okay? Once I go through the second hour of relationship, now I can reason. The problem is we want to go to reason before we have created a sense of safety in our relationship. And this happens even in families. Like parents want to tell the child what to do, what you should do, and this parent has not tried to create a relationship with the child, and the child ignores the advice because I do not know you at the emotional level that opens me to listening to the good advice that you're giving. And so so it is possible. It is not a walk in the park. That is true, but it's very, very possible. And we don't give up on people as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Wafula, do you believe this can be reversed, like you're saying, like Kama is saying? Because when we were growing up, parents would lay the law. I mean, there's no negotiation. They say it's this direction, it's that direction. There's nothing like trying to regulate your feelings. Your feelings never really mattered. They say this is it.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. Yes, but again, how did it impact a number of us? Of course, positively and negatively as well. But yes, to your question, yes, it's possible to reverse this thing. As Kamau is saying, that, you know, create an atmosphere where one would feel trusted, wanted, accommodated, loved, so that then a meaningful conversation starts from that point. Actually, the breakdown of the belief system in a family, in a number of cases, then it's stressed from a breakdown in terms of communication, in terms of relationships with a family. And you realize that a family goes through a certain experience, and they take different perspectives that they cannot now converge to actually agree on the way forward. And that's how then that belief system is broken, because then every now party would want to try and, you know, meet their needs differently. So one of the ways to reverse it is, of course, then build that strong relationship where every family member would feel, you know, accepted, create an open space for people to be and to share. I mean, I imagine of those, like what you're referring in the past, where, I mean, a parent's word was low. Again, it limited people to be able to express themselves. So one of the ways that we would encourage families is that create a space where every family member would feel safe to speak to their issue, because then some of these people go through challenges, and especially children in the family, that they cannot come and share, because then they feel if I share, I'll either be labeled, I'll be judged, I'll be treated very unfairly, I'll be isolated, and therefore they choose to remain with their trouble. Yet if you had created that atmosphere where they can actually be able to share freely, then a family at large could be able to avert the differences in terms of the belief system that would make people go different directions.
Yeah, and Trifena, as we're winding up on this conversation, where do we go from here? That's the main concern that everybody has. Now, these issues will always be revealed. There are counts, there are people who do this and that. What is your advice to the government, or even just the people? Should there be a structured way? Because we have guiding and counseling in schools, but has it been effective? What more needs to be done so that people feel that they're safe to share their frustrations, they're safe to talk about the issues they're going through before getting to the extreme levels?
What I would want to talk, first I would want to talk to the parents at family level, because it all starts from there. That we should have a system whereby people are allowed to share everything that they are going through without condemning. And as I said, that I work with youths at NIBS College. Those students, sometimes they just come and I ask them, what you have told me, have you informed your parent? And they say no. Then the reason is, what could be the reason? And then they would say, because my parent would kill me. You know, and so I'm coming to realize that we are stranger also to our own children, and we do not know them well. So if the parents can come closer to their children, I think we can save a number of them. Then to the victims who will be saved from this, and from anyone who will get out of cult to join the sober society, what I would suggest is that the society should not judge them or condemn them. And then to the victims themselves, they should establish a culture of sharing. Just share whatever you experienced there, talk about it, whether people are responding or they are not responding, please share. And for the people who will receive the sharing, especially now the family members, because chances are they will go and talk to their family members because those are the people that they know. It is very important for the family members to listen to them without a lot of questioning. Not like, why did you go there? Were you normal? You know, when you're asking such a person, you are telling that person that you are supposed to escape from this home and go somewhere else where you are not going to be judged. So the family members or anybody who will receive a victim of Shakahora or any other cult, they should be ready not to judge or condemn them, but at least listen to them. For the people who are listening, if you feel that it is too much for you, it is okay to guide that person to go see a counselor or to go see a spiritual clergy who is well-founded biblically. I keep on repeating this because there are so many outside there.
Yeah.
And then for the government, I think it is the high time that they should establish a very good mental awareness system, because as you say, in some of the schools, why these counseling offices, they are not working, it's because the same counselors are teachers. When I go to class and teach, a student has not done my assignment. And then I'm here asking, why didn't you do my assignment? Then the same student have a psychological issue. That student cannot come to my office. So I think the government, they should have a system where the teachers are not counselors. Like for me, I'm not a counselor. I'm not a teacher, sorry. I'm purely a counselor. Such that I don't go to, I'm not in discipline, I'm not in class, I am not teaching. I am in the counseling office all the time, and the student know me as such.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wafula, what do you recommend? Because I have my friend Silas Kipto here. He's saying, good morning, my brother. Good to see you this morning. Ask the psychologist what should be done to the officers who have been exhuming the bodies, because they're undergoing serious depression, because exhuming more than 100 bodies is not an easy task. So there's also the other end of the people who are doing this work.
The caregivers, right?
The caregivers, exactly. So what do you recommend going forward?
This conversation should not stop, Trevor. And I think it's a very important time in our country to actually keep talking about our mental health. My heart goes out to those people who are in the field even right now trying to exhume the bodies. I can imagine. I can only imagine, because then it's a very traumatic experience for them, to some of them, if not all of them. So, I mean, the government, I want to believe, as of now, they have put mechanisms in place to be able to offer therapy to these people, and also to the family of those who lost their loved ones. So again, we need to approach it holistically, that it's not just about now setting rules for the churches, but also looking at what are the underlying conditions, issues that would ideally subject people as a country to the risk of falling into cultism. I want to believe that as a government, I mean, a number of things can be done. I like a suggestion that, let's now start talking about enhancing the mental health work across the country, so that then people are meant to access these services and they're able to be informed, to make informed decisions. But again, even as individuals, we need to be brother's keeper. We need to actually just take care of each other. In difficult times, in good times, it's just important to just see what is your neighbor up to and where is he. I mean, sometimes it's only in tragedy that we keep reminding ourselves of Nyumba Kumi, and we forget that, I mean, we need to be, brothers keepers even before tragedy. So this conversation is very important to the nation, that we need to keep this alive. But let's talk about, I mean, let's try to differentiate then what will be the truth, what will be the lie. I think then the viewers and the country at large will be able to benefit from such conversations.
Okay. Kama, finally, what do you recommend?
Well, I would say maybe the government could try to have a dialogue with the churches, as much as it's going to be a very difficult task. But the government could, set out to have a dialogue with the churches to have a generic criteria. And possibly one of the ones that I would propose is, if someone wants to found a new church, they ought to have recommendations from several other church leaders or other established churches, like what's the need or something like that, where you don't simply start something, as a sort of a recommendation that this indeed and this person's theological beliefs are consistent with at least 10 other denominations or something like that. So And then on the level of the individual, we need to help people to learn coping skills, because oftentimes this is a coping skill that they're finding a need being met because of a desire to cope with the world as it is. So that's what I would suggest. And please, at the level of school, let the counseling psychologists or the guidance counselor not also be teaching, or in the staff room and the students are finding them talking about their troubles. Those things discourage students. And so that for me would be a fundamental recommendation. And finally, critical thinking. We need to encourage people that critical thinking is it's difficult, but it's a good thing and a good skill to have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for making time this morning. Kamau Mwangi, a psychologist and lecturer at Tangaza University, and Trufena Wakaba is a counseling psychologist, and Richard Wafula, a counseling psychologist as well. Asanteni sana for making time this morning, and thank you all for all the feedback that came through. We're taking a quick break now. When we come back, DJ Gigi is on the decks. All right. My name is Trevor Mbija. Bye for now, and have a great weekend ahead.